back, everyone, to the Builders Coach Show. I'm Kurt Haggetweiler, founder of Builders Coach, and I've got Jess with me who's going to be running through some questions on the profit wheel, I believe.
Yes, welcome back, everyone. So this is our second episode special to celebrate Kurt's 20 years of experience in the coaching industry.
Thank you.
Yes, congrats.
No, thanks. Excited to be here and share some pearls of wisdom.
Yes, so in today's episode, I want to talk through the profit wheel and the 10 categories of the profit wheel. So you speak within your seminars or with your private client and specifically in your book about optimizing profit, workflow, and cash flow.
Correct.
And doing that, looking at all those categories, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So profit, cash flow, workflow, those are the metrics or the outcomes that we strive for. Like on a coaching program, let's make no mistake, the purpose of the exercise is to make our builders more money, to make you more money, to optimize profit, cash flow, and workflow. And there's absolutely no shame in that, right? And in fact, as a builder, you have a duty of care to be financially sound. And it's important for your clients that you are financially sound. You know, there's no higher insolvency rate or, bankruptcy rate than any other industry in the world outside of construction. Having good financials is really important. That's what we aim for. But that profit wheel, those are the levers, if you like, that allow us to optimize those three metrics.
So let's dig into it. The first one that I want to start with is leadership and team. I'll put them together.
Okay.
So tell us briefly what's really important in terms of leadership and your team. And do you have any examples of what some of your clients do?
Yes, of course. Well, your business is never going to outgrow your leadership. The leader of the business, which is you, you're the captain of the ship. So you've got to lead the way. And the team needs a strong leader. A strong leader is someone who knows what they want. They're decisive. They set the course. And then they work on the business. They, ensure that there's consistent business development. They're always looking to innovate, to improve the business, and essentially to set the standard for the business. Well, what are the standards? What are the values? And then hold everyone, including themselves, to a high standard. And leadership requires courage. It requires decisiveness. The hallmark of leadership is decision making. It's knowing themselves as a leader, their strengths, their weaknesses, ideally attenuating their strengths, employing their weaknesses. And, there's an element of people management that comes into play as well. But the best leaders out there, they know what they want. They know what they don't want. They're able to motivate the team, inspire and motivate a team. And they also, again, when it comes to standards and holding standards at a certain level, they also don't tolerate people that deviate from that. And they're able to do that. That's where the courage comes in. They don't just let someone who's the weakest link, and you're only as strong as your weakest link, just stay there and damage the brand and the business and create inefficiency for everyone else. Just
for you listeners out there, we've got a free resource downloadable from our website. We'll put the link in the show notes. It's basically a leadership strategy guide written by yourself. That will help any business out there.
Fantastic, yeah, and leadership is absolutely paramount, and it lends itself to team, which is why I suppose you brought them up, right?
Yes. Yes, because I think, and maybe you've seen this with some of your clients, that there's a lot of complaints around teams, maybe high turnover, getting the right people,
can't find good people,
exactly, recruiting the right people, etc. So that obviously goes hand in hand. Do you have any examples of that?
Of examples of like how to build a strong team or what's involved in the process?
Yeah, so all clients, how you've helped them
build a strong team. Okay. Well, the first thing I'll say about that is you get the team you deserve. So you've got to be the type of leader who other people are going to want to follow, and ideally be the type of leader who can build leaders underneath you. All right. So you've got to earn the right. So there's a famous quote by Jim Rohn: you work harder on yourself than you do in your business. So to become a better leader, you got to keep getting out of your comfort zone. And we always say you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. So seek out ways to get out of your comfort zone. I was talking to a guy today who's not very comfortable with public speaking. It's a common thing with people, right? Getting on stage and speaking in front of people. Apparently it's because, our ancestors thousands of years ago, when we lived in groups of 50 people, if you spoke up in a tribe and said the wrong thing, they would oust you out of the tribe. You'd be on your own, or, you get beaten to death or something. So we've got this irrational fear associated with public speaking. And I always say it's a blessing if you do. If you're listening, if you've got a really irrational fear, like a disproportionate emotional response to having to get up on stage and speak, then conquering that is such a powerful thing, because you get the confidence to the extent of the fear that you had associated with it. So that's just one example, but know yourself, keep getting out of your comfort zone, become the type of leader that instills confidence and motivation in others. And then, have a process for recruiting, training, and retaining a good team and building a culture, right? And if you get the right people on the bus, so to speak, the sum of the parts is greater than the whole. Mm-hmm. You would have heard that before, back in your days as well. And you see it with sporting teams. So there's a lot of examples of sporting teams where the individuals are not as great as an opposition team, but that team outperforms the other team. Mm-hmm. All right, we were watching that Beckham thing. Remember the Beckham show? Yes. When he went to Real Madrid, and they had a star-studded team. Yes. Like everyone was a freak, right? But they were losing. Mm-hmm. Now they had a losing streak, and then they had to pull themselves out of it. So you could have amazing people, but it's a culture and understanding the values, getting values alignment, and then, fish rots from the head down. So being the type of leader that walks his talk and pushes that forward. And I find some guys are naturally better leaders than others, but the good news is you can become the type of leader you need to be. Mm-hmm. But again, you need to be clear. Like, what do you want? Okay, what do you want in terms of results for your business? Do you want to dominate just your particular niche? How big do you want to go? Begin with the end in mind, and then ask yourself, who do you need to be? So what type of leader do I need to be to build a team to get the results that I want? And knowing that the people that you bring on board is the single most important thing you'll do for business success.
Yeah. And we've got a podcast where we discuss recruiting and teams also. Was it number 12?
So if you look at it, I think it's number 12, yeah. If you look at best practice process, which is what we're all about, we were seeking out better ways to implement systems for each area of profit wheel. So your finance, your sales, your marketing, admin, job delivery, team, leadership. What's the best way, and what processes can you put in place to optimize your results in all of those areas? Mm-hmm. So, obviously with the team, there's a whole lot you can do there. Mm-hmm. And leadership's a big part.
One of the next category, and I think this is a really important one, is marketing.
Yes.
What are your quick tips around marketing, especially with someone that's maybe starting out?
Okay. Well, first up, marketing's a holy grail, mm-hmm. right? And marketing really is selling in advance. So understanding the specific area that you want to be a solution provider in, mm-hmm. right? And there's a mindset shift right there. You're not trying to sell anything. You're offering a certain solution. Maybe it's renovations, extensions, remodeling, first floor additions, whatever it is. Be the specialist in that area and be like a lighthouse with the beacon of light going out that draws people in. And in this day and age, using education-based marketing, video is the number one medium for marketing these days. You can put it on social media platforms, your website, you can send out emails, and you can really help people understand more about the specific solution that you provide that draws them in. And then the sales process really becomes an application-based process or an onboarding process, mm-hmm. where you just bring people on. It just makes it so much easier rather than trying to sell. And most guys don't do enough marketing, so they end up compromising their values and having to work with someone they don't necessarily like, or they're having to drop their margin, and that creates financial issues, which is not good for the builder as well as the client. And it just becomes a negative downward spiral. So again, seeking out a mentor, getting access to good business information is the single most important thing you can do if you're starting out in business. And we're living times now where there's never been better sharing of quality information.
My next question was around sales, because obviously that's also a big, important category.
Absolutely.
And we've got the 6-step sales process, also a downloadable resource. Mm-hmm. We'll put the link down in the show notes. But what are your quick tips around sales?
The number one, having a process, right? A best practice process for sales. The number one rule for sales is qualify. So
Yeah.
If you don't have a lot of inquiries coming in, you're not going to want to qualify them out. So that means you've got a marketing problem. So you need to market to the extent that you have overflow. We talk about overbooking the flight, have more inquiry than you need. And then you deselect or cherry pick the best clients. But that also requires that you know what your ideal client looks like.
Yeah.
And your client and the job type are two different things. So know what type of job and what type of client you would ideally like to work with. And now the best marketing strategists out there, they create an avatar of the ideal client and then communicate a very clear message to that market.
Mm-hmm.
And then that attracts those, the consistent flow of those quality inquiries. And your sales process is really engineered to qualify and then educate. And once they qualify and go, okay, I'll do extensions and renovations. They want to do an extension and renovation in this location.
Mm-hmm.
Do they have the budget? Yes, they do. Then you send them information to help them understand your build process and how you can best help them achieve what it is they want with that project. And as they go through, they demonstrate that they're a good fit for you, and there's no stronger indication of interest and that they are a good fit other than them paying you some money. So once they pay some money for a preliminary agreement or a cost analysis, which is you just charging for a quote, then you take it forward from there. But in this day and age, value management's a big thing. I've got time to go into the specifics now, but essentially the clients I'm working with are developing a sales process that adds a significant amount of value, which is the first principle for wealth creation. That also ejects them from the tender process. So they don't have to do competitive tenders. It's a one build tender process, which makes it essentially it's a one horse race.
Yeah.
Which is a dream. And, obviously a dream for the builder, but it's phenomenal for the client in terms of the value and any architect or designer involved in the process as well.
Yeah. And so tell us how important networking is within the marketing space and the sales.
Number one marketing strategy, network marketing with the right people. Again, I said it before, people, the number one most important thing you can do in business is have the right people in your team. So that includes your trade base, right? Your subcontractors, the people in your office, the architects, designers, but network marketing with the right, if you do residential, architectural build or custom homes, architects and designers, where you can add a significant amount of value to their business and eliminate a significant amount of pain, which will want them to, negotiate a tender or one horse race scenario.
Moving on to job delivery.
Yes.
So job delivery, we hear often that managing different projects and job delivery can be quite tricky for some of your clients and builders out there. What is your recommendation about that?
I'll start by saying what you shouldn't do, which is a gunshot start. So sign a contract today, start the job tomorrow. That's just the recipe for disaster. So you want to have a job scheduling tool. You want to program your jobs. Everything we do is about being proactive, not reactive, using forecasting, financial forecasting, team structure forecasting, so you can make informed decisions. Also business development forecasting. Most guys are looking back through a rearview mirror, trying to drive forward, looking at a profit and loss. That's looking at what happened in the past. That doesn't work. I mean, most of the guys listening, they know how to build, right? Like, I'm not a builder's coach who teaches builders how to build. They come to me knowing how to build. They've got the builder's license already. So that box is ticked.
Yeah.
If they've got a problem there, they've got to go back to school, go learn how to do what they do. I'll teach the business side. So, but there are things you can do from a business development perspective, like having a job scheduling tool, having a client commencement agreement, which is explaining the rules of the game with the client before you start, knowing that your client is part of the team. So, throw back to building a strong team. Your client's part of the team. They need to know what it is you need from them in order for you to fulfill in your promises to them, which is, payments on time, them making all their selections before the job starts, access to site, not just turning up. And that requires that you have a communication process that you explain to them as well. Variations, once they've made their selections, if they want to make a change, the change order or variation, it's possible if there's an admin fee and there's another cost associated with getting it done, which they need to pay up front or at least half. So all of that, explaining that up front earns a lot of credibility and respect. So these are the things you can do. And then during the job, it's endless. Most builders don't realize that the client experience, proactive communication during the build, which is sorely lacking in this industry, if done well. And the way I've seen it done best is with female project managers, because women tend to have more finesse when they communicate. And if they communicate with the client and project manage and leave the guys on site or ladies on site to, head down, arse up, get the job done, then, the client enjoys the build process. Imagine that. Imagine enjoying the build process. Okay. And that right there is marketing.
Yeah.
That is marketing. And that is just at another level. Talk about raising the bar and being a leader who sets the bar high and holds it there. That's a great example. And, I work with a lot of successful builders. In fact, everyone that comes to me is in the top 10% at least, by virtue of the fact that they're proactive with their business development. But there's only 10% or less of those that are able to get to a point where they implement proactive, client-centric, communication systems like I've just described. Yeah.
You mentioned systems already, but in terms of technology systems, like how important is that? And I would imagine that over the last 20 years, that's changed quite a bit. What's your experience around that?
Absolutely. So I mentioned earlier, I think it was my last pod, that 2015, we had this first, paperless event. So you could run a building company completely paperless. This is 9 years ago. Unbelievable. So since then, you got GPS, timesheet tracking. I mean, there's new apps and AI things coming out every single day, dozens of them. So I only ever recommend it. By the way, I'm product agnostic, so I don't, have any businesses that I'm aligned with because, there's a relationship or anything like that. I'm always seeking out best practice, and every business is different. But a lot of the technology these days, so your job scheduling tool with a client communication portal is very important. Timesheet tracking, ideally with GPS, having your IHS, your occupational health and safety systems where there's a QR code that the guys can check in as they go in. Everything gets tracked. Calendly, appointment setting apps that go and populate straight into people's calendars, and also send notifications so you don't have to, do the call forwards. Site diaries. It goes on and on. And again, there's no one fit for everyone, but there is a best practice based on the type of work you do, your location, and then also your aspirations, like how big do you want to get. But I'm just trying to think what else there is that's come out. I mean, we're running a time management workshop, boot camp soon, and some of the things that take time are the simplest, like a voice memo. Like if you've got an iPhone, you can record what you say. We use it. I was stand-up meetings. And you record it and send it. You can text it or email it. I know guys that go walk on site, and as they're walking, they're recording themselves going, okay, ba, 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 ba. And then they just shoot that off to the office. And then someone in the office, the admin lady, types it up. And that forms part of the report that gets sent to the client. Or the builder has a meeting with the client and the architect, or some subcontractors, gets into his vehicle and then just, while it's all fresh in mind, does a download on a record and sends that to the office. She types it out and sends it off to all parties, and they keep a paper trail that way. It's just like, things like that are so simple, but very effective.
And then also obviously AI, right?
Of course, AI.
Everything that's, back office, like marketing, social media.
I was going to say, so within marketing, video. Video is not new, right? Video has been around for a while, but using video to educate clients. Most builders don't realize, like if you're in residential building and home ownership and investment property and all that, it's the number one obsession on the planet. People absolutely love it. You cannot create enough content, right? There's an insatiable appetite. So getting in front of the camera, which I know for some people give them sweaty palms, they wouldn't want to do it. But if you've got the balls to do it, you can really put yourself out in a different in a different league. And it's not about you, right? People want to know what's in it for me. What am I getting? How do you build? What do I need to know? When I was in the US recently, there was a list of the top 42 reality TV shows around construction and house flips and this show and that show. So people absolutely love it. So using video, and then using that video, again, video is not new, but using it on all the different platforms that are out there, like the social media platforms, even things like TikTok, that's new. I don't have many guys using it, but I do have a few where it's taken off. So just staying aware of what's working for your market, knowing your market is key.
And maybe that technology specific, but the Upwork, the platform to be able to find other people.
No, you're right. Well, that is technology, right? That's like, talk about dematerialization or, what is Facebook, right? Like as a way, it's just a platform that connects people. What is Uber? What is Airbnb? So it's dematerialization. Uber don't own any vehicles and Airbnb don't own hotels, right? So Upwork is like that as well. It's connecting people. It's a platform that connects people all over the world. And it's the review system in the same way. I mean, some people don't like Airbnb because you get reviewed as the person that stays there. But if you've got a good review, then that builds trust and people know that they can let you stay in their $5 million home, right, with confidence. As it is with Uber. Remember, we were leaving a wedding once and I had an Uber like that because I always tip them and my reviews through the charts. It's the same with Upwork. So you could have someone in Afghanistan doing graphic design work for you. And, you can see that they've got 4,000, 10-star reviews. So works up into 10-star Upwork. And there's other platforms like that as well. So that's a great example of technology. And it keeps moving up the last 3 years.
Oh, yeah, might say. I think the apps also, because we talk about system and product tools. But everything that's on the apps on your phone is better.
Exactly. And you've got to be so careful you don't get caught up chasing bright, shiny objects because there's the latest thing all the time. And there's a lot of, sensationalization where they're like, it's the best thing. But really, it's just a marketing ploy to get you in. And if you realize it's something that's very similar to something else. And, it can become an inefficiency. So ideally, you want to have someone that's checking out these things. You want to be part of a community. Builders Unite on Facebook is a great community where, if you're part of a group of like-minded builders, you can see what people are using. And that's how I find out about best practice processes. I'm dealing with 7 Club builders. And when they tell me something new's come along, not just one guy, but half a dozen of them say, hey, this thing is amazing. You've got to check it out. And then I pay attention. So it's actually just triggered something for me. We've got a CRM system. It's a new CRM system. Automation works. We have our builders using it already. And that is a new piece of technology that was not available 18 months ago, which integrates all of your marketing leads. So all of your social media, Facebook, Instagram, Google, your website, all the communications through any contact page, landing page. You can create new landing pages on it, plus your email marketing list. I had 9 systems that I was using that I integrated into Automation Works. It was $1,600 a month for those 9 systems. Now it's less than $200 for the one, and that one platform, when you're familiar with it now as well. You can trace every piece of contact, whether they've opened an email, whether they've downloaded a document, whether you can make phone calls, send text messages, and that is next level technology right there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let's talk about finance a little bit. Finance and cash flow. Cash flow can be a real pain point, for some.
There's no one in business that hasn't experienced cash flow problems. I don't care who you are. Everyone has.
So how do you help builders create financial stability?
First up, I want to say nothing messes with your head more than cash flow problems, than having financial problems. And I've spoken about leadership and mindset being so important. So you've got to protect that because the hallmark of leadership is decision making. If you're worried about cash flow, it's going to mess with your decision making. You're not going to be a great leader. Your standards are going to drop and you're going to have a whole range of issues. You'll be in a tailspin very quickly. All right. So what do? We get margins up. So margins should be, if you're working with us, minimum 25% margin. There's other coaches out there that push for a high margin, 33% markup. That's gross margin. You still got to pay your overheads and you got to have at least a 2 mil turnover. So get margin up and net profit in as quickly as humanly possible, right? And then positive cash flow. So money needs to come in before it goes out. And the way to do that is like this, using a positive cash flow payment schedule. That's also legal. And the banks will sign off on, even though you don't necessarily want clients that go to the banks. Don't get me started on the banks. And then profit first, building up cash reserves so that essentially you've got your own overdraft in cash. Like, I remember when I started out, when I was with that franchise organization, I just started coaching 20 years ago. There was a guy in his 60s, and he was a great example of good leadership mindset, by the way. This guy was like early 60s, back end of his career, and he had all the latest computer screens in front of him. It was all over the latest technology. He was one of those guys. And I'm sure if he's alive today, he's all over AI. And he said to me, I am not going to be that old guy like some people out there who don't know how to use an ATM. He said, I'm not going to be that guy. I want to stay in it. And it's not that difficult, right? Just stay in front of it. Just keep reading, especially now, access to information. The thing with him, though, going back to the financials, is he had built up, and I've seen multiple guys at his age. And so, again, you can't go through a business without going to cash flow problems. And the older guys, they'll say to you, man, you need to have buffers of cash, because it's not if, it's when you're going to get punched in the face, proverbially speaking, right? So he had $500,000 cash. If the money dropped below $500,000, he said if it's $1, $4,99999, that's all hell breaks loose. Only him and the CFO, he had an in-house chief financial officer, would know that it's $4,999. But the rest of the company, the sales team and everyone else, thought the ship was sinking. It was panic stations. And he did not allow it to go beyond that. Yeah, and always had on for the mill, at least, some guys more. So building out those cash reserves, good margin, positive cash flow. It sounds easy. And we have simple metrics, 25, 10, 15, 25 gross margin, 10% overheads to turnover metric, 15 net profit. That's what we aim for. We have guys with that on their wall.
Can you give us a bit of a story about someone that's applied all these different changes or tips for these different areas of the profit wheel? I do have a good success story that you want to share with us.
So many stories.
Pick one.
All right, let me pick one. Okay. So, I mean, it's something I talk about day one with a lot of my clients. Like, sometimes they want to know, like, what are we going to do? So what's the roadmap? What's the process, and what's the sequence of implementation, and what systems, and then what's coming next? We'll start working on things, and what's next? And my response is always, okay, let's begin with the end in mind. So what we're doing in implementing best practice processes through that profit wheel for each area of the profit wheel is, and it does happen sequentially in the same way you build a house with a certain sequence. You've got to lay the slab first, and then you go from that. We're doing that for your business. The end result is you have a fully functioning operations manual that runs like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
And you've got best practice process from first inquiry in all the way through to after handover and maintenance. All right. So that's what we're working toward. One of our guys, he started out as a sole trader, and I'll talk about the story as it relates to the power of working on your business. So whenever we have seminars, events, if people haven't already made a decision to work on their business, I'll say that's the first decision you have to make. You have to decide, I'm going to work on my business. That's another whole apprenticeship. You're going to understand business, systems, development, and it's a lifelong journey. All right. So just know that's what you're signing up for. This guy did that, and he came to me late in his career. He just wanted to tidy up his operations manual and then optimize for profitability before he exited. So he had an exit strategy, succession. And it's interesting because he had friends who were sole traders. So guys just, working by themselves, running the business out the back of their vehicle. Right?
Yeah.
And he made a decision early on to start building systems. Okay, I'm going to build some marketing system. I'm going to build my team. And he owned a block of real estate in Sydney CBD. The lovely guy, Scottish, great sense of humor. He exited. They were doing about 20 or 30 mil. And he wanted to put another 10 mil revenue on, increase the profitability, the cash flow, and then just structure it in a way that it would look attractive for sale, to which the things you put in place at that point are a little different. And he's an example of someone who's slightly above, beyond in terms of revenue with most of the guys we work with. And not everyone wants to sell it. A lot of our guys, their succession plan is to hand it to their sons, which, by the way, a second generation business is the most successful business, or daughters for that matter. So anyway, he exited for a big chunk of change. And then, they keep you on for a couple of years. But he was a great example of someone who, just slowly and methodically over time was able to build a very successful business and was able that had equity value.
Yeah. That's awesome. Success story. Last question for you, Kurt. So we've been talking about the last 20 years and some of your success stories. We're looking forward now for the next 20 years. If you
only the next 20.
So I've got
a 100-year plan. You want to hear that?
Your 100-year plan.
Yeah, I've got a 100-year plan because they're bringing out new technology that's going to reverse the aging process. So yeah, I've got long-term plans.
Long-term plan and goals. Good, that's good to hear. But
20 years. Let's just bring it back into focus. So just the next 20.
So looking forward 20, 100 years, whatever you want to look at, what are you looking forward to? Or what do you expect to happen? Like, do you anticipate some big changes within the building industry?
Massive.
What are your thoughts?
Massive. So besides them reversing the aging process, right? Now, we're always going to need, seriously, I think that's going to happen in our lifetime. If you're below the age of 60, they'll be able to extend it. So we're going to be on 100 comfortably. But which is why it's good to have a long-term perspective. But everyone needs a place to live, right? And I think there's going to be significant change as we reach a point where artificial intelligence, is able to change, how we think, as well as encasing that artificial intelligence in a humanoid robot when the cost of things is going to come down. So that's going to transform the building industry significantly. It's probably a couple of decades before we get anywhere close to that. But I think that's something that I really look forward to it. A lot of people are scared of change. Human beings are naturally scared of change. And people were scared when the internet came out. People were like, I'm never going to, send money on the internet. And people were so fearful. It's just part of our human nature. But I think there's an 80% chance, I heard Elon Musk talk about this recently, that the world is going to become a much, much better place. And I think that's going to be the case for the construction industry. But it is one that's very staple. It's going to be around for a long time still.
Yeah.
And I absolutely love it. Like everyone, I love real estate. I love, houses. I love construction. I love the fact that it's heading towards and using more green technology as well.
Yeah.
So having, just less wastage and then using materials that not only don't damage the environment, but maybe complement the environment as well. And then using natural sources of power like solar and thermal. So I'm looking forward to a world where construction sort of complements and even benefits the environment as opposed to some of the ugly things you see out there at the moment. Yeah. And then developers, guys just building for financial gain. So I've just joined a group actually that are very pro sustainability.
Right.
And I'm not like a greenie or a tree hugger by any means, but I do love my Tesla. And I bought it for the sheer speed and not having to stand there and put petrol in. And then, yes, it's good for the environment. So I'd love to see a Tesla house built, And that's why, I joined this group of builders because I'd love to collaborate on that. That would be a pet project for me in my twilight years, building something that is, off the grid, but sexy and a great place with its own gym and entertainment area and everything else. So, yeah. I'm starting to dream a little now.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm also looking forward to some beautiful, sustainable and green houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they look good and feel good, basically.
Yeah.
And do good.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not like we're going to go back. I mean, some of the green, the greenhouses now, full and green, they're like, built by hippies. It looks like a mud hut or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's I suppose let's get the Tesla version out there.
And in a few years' time, we might have robots actually building them.
Human robots,
and
yes.
A limited team on site and just having teams mixed robots and people.
Yes, I mean that I cannot wait for. Like everyone who's not going to want one. I can't wait for the humanoid robot revolution to hit. I'll be putting my hand up for sure.
Anyway, that's all we have time for. Thank you guys for joining us for those 2 special episodes of the Builders Coach Show. And looking forward to seeing you guys soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jess.
Bye.
Cheers.